Hello, this is Sandy. Hope you're having a great week. In this video, I'm just going to be sharing a fun process I've been using for creating semi-abstract florals. Been having great fun with it. So I'm just going to share some previous work, share the process for creating these florals, and I'm going to make some abstract greeting cards. So I have this pile of artwork I've been kind of working on over the past year or so. Um, I've been really enjoying the process of creating out of chaos, if that makes sense. So this is just a little abstract, semi-abstract floral piece. Basically, I have loads of pieces of kind of like paper, and I just make a right mess on them, and then I just play around making these semi-abstract florals. They just turn out so pretty, and they're really, really fun to do. You can really play around with color palettes and composition, and just create some really fun pieces. It's really low pressure because you're starting with an absolute mess, so you're not worried about messing it up. If you hate it, you can just paint over it and start again, or you can even just throw it away, get it recycled. This is just another example on a slightly bigger piece of paper. I think I did this with acrylic paint and like Neocolor 2s and crayons. This is another one on another piece of kind of scrap paper, really, just all in acrylics. The floral bouquet is kind of mainly what was underneath, and I've just worked on top of it. This one is a slightly bigger variation of some of the smaller ones. I just think it's got such a dreamy kind of quality to it. I really enjoy it. Kind of looks like that pink flower is in the spotlight where the rest of it is kind of in shadow, gives it kind of a focal point. I also think it looks quite nice framed. I've just got this border to put around it just to show you. It would look nice up on the wall, or you could even frame it and give it to a family member, a nice birthday present for mum, or like a Mother's Day gift or something like that. Also, I have this lovely vintage tin. I just store all my little pieces in here. I have these smaller versions that I've been playing around with. Um, just I experiment on all sorts of different scrap paper, really. It's just a really good way of using up materials that you already have. So this is just an example of what the pieces look like when I start. I just mess them up, really go to town on being expressive and loose, just using a brush or a sponge, blotting down those shapes. I kind of do it in like a twisty motion and just try and get flower, kind of like general floral kind of shapes, like more rounded and organic shapes. So these are some examples of some minis that I've just been playing around with. This one was done with a little bit of oil pastels, but they're all mainly in acrylics. There's also the one with the stripes is collage, so you can use collage. Also, this one here in green and red, I used a little bit of gold leaf as a detail. That was really fun to do. So much scope for playing around, using your creativity, just experimenting. They're only small scraps of paper you're playing around with, just low pressure, fun experimentation. Now, I learned this technique from, I think, Bob Burridge. He's an amazing teacher. I think it's negative shape painting or negative space painting. So you're painting around the negative space rather than starting with your subject and painting that in. You're working with what you see in the image. Can you see a bouquet of flowers and work within the mess? So if you enjoy that type of style painting, I mean, he does more, but definitely check out Bob Burridge's channel. He's fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of do a little bit of a demo about how I go about starting off creating these pieces, and then we'll do some cards. So I'm just starting with a scrap piece of paper. I don't tend to use a prescribed size. I'm using what I already have, which is lots of scrap paper that I want to use up. So this is just a piece of mixed media paper. I'm just going in, I've got a sponge, it's just a normal craft sponge, and I'm cutting it to size. I have some acrylic paints. I'm starting with a fluorescent pink because I love that, but you can use whatever colours you like. I also have a little palette where I store my acrylic paints, as you can see there. It's just full of mainly primary colours, really. And I'm just thinking I'm going with a pink and green colour scheme. So I've got some water, and I'm just dabbing the sponge in the water and then going in with the paint, and I'm dabbing it on the page. You want to dab it on, not smush it around too much because the colours can muddy as it's quite wet. So you just want to dab different colours of your choice all over the paper. So I've now gone in with a slightly darker pink value. Now I'm going to go in with a bit of green and just dab that around the page as well. I also go in with a little bit of blue just to add a bit of variation. So I've put that one aside to dry and I'm just going in with another one. This one's on a scrap piece of watercolour paper that I had, just showing you. So I've used up some more of that pink because I had it on my palette, and I'm also using that with an orange. Again, another bit of green for some of the foliage, and also another bit of blue just to add a bit more variation in colour, and because blue is complementary colour for orange. I'm also using a bit of white and a little bit of black, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of black and white on as well, just to add another variation in value and just to add some more contrast. I'm also, instead of the sponge, just using some kitchen roll. I've just kind of scrunched it up and I'm wetting that in the water and dipping that in my paint, and pretty much the same as a sponge, but it does have a slightly different effect and quite nice. You can mix up the two or use either or really. So here are our two messes. I'm already seeing things in this mess. So I'm just outlining with a Stabilo Woody here. What I kind of see is like a vase and some flowers already. So I'm just going with what I initially see because I enjoy working with what I see, because it's just interesting to me. I mean, I could just kind of try and ignore that and go with a more realistic size, but I just wanted to work with what I saw. I also saw a similar kind of vase shape within this pink piece on the right, but then again, I also saw like an ice cream cone, and I really was tempted to go with the ice cream. But I said, no, this is flowers today. We're having fun with flowers. So I went with the flowers. So this is what I mean by seeing order in the chaos. I'm making order out of the mess. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to show you how I'd approach this with a smaller piece. I'm just outlining with a Stabilo Woody what I currently see, and if it doesn't turn out, I can always adjust it as I go. You know, it's not set in stone, it's just working with kind of what appears to me in the moment. So now I'm just going to mix up a background colour. I'm thinking I'm going to go with a green and pink, or greeny and orange colour palette. So I'm just going to mix up a kind of yellow, light yellow green, kind of like a neutral yellowy green colour, one of my favourite colours. And I'm just going to go in and block in the background and try and form the shape of the bouquet. So now I've done the background and got my composition. Well, for now, that's where my composition is. I'm going in with a, I don't know how to say it, phthalo green, and just blocking in a rough kind of vase. I'm now just mixing up a slightly lighter value green and using that for my foreground or like a table. So just blocking that in. I'm just trying to think in terms of colours that work well together. So I'm just going with like a pinky, orangey and green colour scheme, because I know that those colours work okay together. I like leaving a bit of an outline of the background as well, gives a bit of contrast to the piece. So I put this to the side and let it dry for a little bit because it was getting a bit muddy and losing its shape. So I went in, redefined the bouquet, added a bit more colour to it. I also added some black Stabilo Woody around the areas in the bouquet just to define where it looked like there were flowers, just to bring that out a little bit more. I've also gone in now with a vase and just adding some more green to define that a little bit more. And I've just got some white paint, and I'm just going to mix a little bit of white and use that for a little bit of a reflection and just a little bit of a to show where the light source is. Yeah, just playing around really. It's such a great technique for loosening up, experimenting, playing with color palettes, playing with composition, exploring your materials, and just really exploring your creativity really. So I'm just going to have a little bit of a play around with this piece now that it's dried, just see what we can do quickly. So I've already plotted in the basic composition. I'm going in with a cobalt blue for the vase for now. It's predominantly orange in this piece, so I'm going with the complementary colour of blue. Just I thought it'd be nice and easy just to have colours that matched for this like demo. I'm then going in with a lighter value. It's the same blue, but just kind of lightening that up slightly just to block in that table that the vase is sitting on. I think it looks a bit too similar though, so I'm just going to add a bit more white and lighten that up a little bit just so that there's a bit of a difference between the two colours. But that's the great thing about this process. You can just, the more you go over it, the more it adds character and texture. So it's, you really can't lose. You just try it out. If it doesn't work, try again. You can paint over it. Paint it all white if it turns out completely wrong, and you can just start all over again. It's, easy, really. No pressure, low pressure. So going back in with the white, and I'm just mixing up like a lighter orange color, adding in a bit of that blue to make it to harmonize it so that they work together. So it's kind of like now like a beigey orange, nice neutral color for that background. I'm just plotting in the background and working on how I want the bouquet to look. I want it to kind of be proportional to the vase, although that vase is quite big. I think it's working okay. But that's the fun about this being semi-abstract. It doesn't have to, we're not going with realistic, we're going with fun, and we're going with playful, and we're going with what we see and training our eye to see shapes. So I'm just plotting in the rest of the background and just trying to get that bouquet in there. So now I'm just going back over the vase because it was looking a little bit wishy-washy, just using the same cobalt blue really and just making that a bit more opaque. It was just looking, a bit wishy-washy. I tend to like to leave it a bit more transparent, but I really wanted the blue to stand out a bit more against that orange, so I just brought that out. And now I'm just going in and faffing about with the background a bit more. Like it's not finished and it's not a perfect piece or anything like that. It's just a fun way of experimenting with flowers and using up your scrap pieces of paper, playing with materials, experimenting with color palettes and things like that. Really experimental and fun technique. So what I'm going to do now is show you how I turn the smaller pieces into greeting cards. I'm going to use some of my previous designs because the other piece is drying and I wanted to do them anyway and just show you how I'd go about doing that. So I have these cards. They're basically 27 centimeter by 13.5 centimeter pieces of A3 mixed media paper that I've cut down to size. So that makes them 13.5 by 13.5 centimeter square cards. I also have this 6-inch by 6-inch bright textured cardstock, and I've chosen like a dark black color, and I'm going to use that for a bit of a border and just see how that works out. And I'm just going to show you how I go about putting these together. So I'm just using a Pritt stick and I'm just going over the cardstock with the Pritt stick. You could use Mod Podge, probably better to use a bit of a stronger glue like Mod Podge actually, or like a gel medium or matte medium or something, or an adhesive. This is just the only thing I have to hand at the moment and it's good enough for me. So I'm just placing that down in the center of my card, and that's going to act as a bit of a border for my artwork. I have the most abysmal cutting tool. It's so flimsy, and trying to cut these to size was absolutely awful. It just kept slipping. And because I was working on pieces of card that were already scrap paper, these aren't the straightest. So I do apologize. I need to get a better cutting tool, like a guillotine or something in the future, because I'm starting to do a lot of these. But anyway, I'm sticking down my artwork central again onto that, or as central as I can, and just pressing that firmly down and wiping off any excess glue that I got on the artwork. It comes off pretty easily, and I'm just repeating the process. So here are the pieces that I've finished. I had a few others that I was going to make into cards, but because they were really wonky and my cutting tool was driving me insane, I didn't have the patience to cut out any more of the textured cardstock. um, I liked the thinner border. I'm wishing I would have gone with that, but the frustration of the cutting tool, I just didn't have the patience. And these are kind of experimental anyway, but you know, if you're doing it yourself, use a proper cutting tool. So here's all of the cards and the some of the artwork we've looked at today. Let me know what you think if you've tried this yourself. How did you get on? Just wanted to say thank you for watching and I hope you have a great week. Bye.